The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, Dave Ruiz here. I'm actually listed, I think, in your GoToWebinar interface as the Versata organizer. I've got a title improvement here today. I'm going to try to, how do I unmute all? Can I unmute all? How do I do that? I'm going to just click everybody and unmute. Can everybody, I see 5 customers here today, a handful of folks. A lot of people have signed up for the 14th session, but I see Danielle and Jody and Luis and Nicole and Werner. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
And Corey, I guess I see you there too, yeah? You have a question, Danielle?
Can you hear me?
I could regret that I unmuted everybody. I'm getting a little bit of echo here. So, Danielle, do you have a question? Okay. Well, let me just get started here. Certainly thank you all for attending this first of 2 sessions really designed to introduce you more fully to the new Raven for Microsoft Office product line. And so, Dan, did I mute you, Marcia? Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you have something important to say, or what?
No, I just wanted to unmute it.
Okay. Anyway, so thanks for attending, guys. What we're going to do here very quickly is show you a couple of introductory slides. I'm going to try to do this with you guys unmuted. And so if you do have a question interactively, just say, Dave, I have a question, and we'll stop and address it. Marcia does have a fairly hard stop at 2:45 because she's at the DA World conference and has a presentation that she needs to deliver there later this afternoon. So we need to get to the demo as quickly as possible, which Marcia will deal with, and then we'll go ahead and continue our discussion to the extent you have any additional questions that I can answer for you. Okay? So let me go ahead and bring up my presentation. And again, feel free to stop me if you have any questions. Okay, so now this is about week 3 of since the acquisition of Ravenflow by Versata. And
Dave, you want to show your screen?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's a question, right?
That's my question for today. Yeah.
That's a demand. Please show your screen. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Okay, so this is week 3, as I said, and we've been going through a series of transitionary activities with Versata, and Marcia and I are continuing to work with the Versata team, and we'll do so in the coming days, weeks, and months. And our focus in the near term is to get you all introduced to the new Raven product line, get you comfortable with the scope and capabilities of that product line, and then answer any questions you have about those capabilities relative to what you're using now, be it Raven Professional or Raven Express or some combination of those, and answer any questions you have about the future direction roadmap that I can answer personally, as I'm still responsible for the product direction of Ravenflow under Versata. Okay? So I'm going to kick it off here with a set of just a brief slides, again, and pass it off to Marcia. She'll do a demonstration, then we'll come back to me. Okay? We introduced this slide, I think, the last time that you attended a presentation, for those of you who sat in on the presentation by the new CEO of Ravenflow, Davin Cushman. This is really a summary of the Raven product line in 2011, right? And what you'll see as we talk about this and walk through it is it is clearly an Office-centered product strategy. Now, this is all part of the plan that we had from the start, but some of the plans that we had are being changed slightly, but we still intend on delivering the kinds of capabilities that you're looking for to maximize your leverage and use of Raven in your current company environment. So Raven for Office really takes Raven and provides a very clear enhancement over what we used to do with Raven Express, where Raven is embedded within Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, which are the three go-to tools for most business analysts worldwide who are working on requirements projects or somehow involved in the software development lifecycle. And I don't think there's any question about that. I think the question you guys will have is, are the capabilities you're going to offer me in Office, enough for me to do what I do now with Raven, and perhaps allow me to do even more than that. Raven for Visio, we've separated that out from Raven for Office because Visio is not a formal part of the Office product suite from Microsoft. It is sold and licensed separately. And so in recognition of that, we kind of carved it out from a product packaging perspective, but also because many of the BAs that we talk to might have Visio, but a lot of them don't. And they really stick to Word and Excel for structural requirements collection, or put together flowcharts with the drawing tools of PowerPoint. So we've kind of separated those out, but still that's going to be the focus of where the Raven capabilities are delivered on the client side, which is within Office or within Visio or any combination of those two products. Raven Cloud you know about, hopefully you've played with. What you'll see as part of the demonstration today is the ability for you to kind of take the processes and use cases that you offer within the Office environment and save them out to your cloud account. So for all practical purposes, there's a bridge from Office to the cloud, whether you elect to use it or not, and it's a common storage and classification model so that you can save a process in a cloud-based repository and then access it either through your Office product or through a web-based interface that is Raven Cloud, right? So that's all there. The glossary and the repository, or its companion services, if you will, server-side functions which allow you to create a business vocabulary for your project or to use across the enterprise, a much more robust implementation of the glossary that you currently have in Raven 5.2, and I mean much more robust, much more capable, and much more extensible for use in different applications aside from Raven. Raven repository basically allows you to take and store and classify and reuse the process and use case models you're creating with Raven, and then access them in your current project or across project as you see fit. And then the final thing, which Gavin mentioned in the Focus in his presentation a few weeks ago, which was the Raven language engine packaged as a service, a public API available, which really gives you the ability to take Raven and embed it with other enterprise applications, to bridge into your other requirements products or system engineering products or whatever it happens to be. At the end of the day, we felt like having a public API would be the best way to enable custom utilization of Raven for you guys, in addition to enabling partners to leverage it directly. So I see a hand raised from Jody. Jody, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing with everybody unmuted. Someone's typing loud. I can hardly even hear you.
I'm sorry. Maybe what I'll do is I'll mute everybody, and then you just raise your hand if you have a question like Jody just did. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But, Marcia, I'll try not to mute you. So you're unmuted, Marcia.
Okay, great.
Okay. Is that okay? So that should be better for Jody, hopefully. And again, raise your hand if you have any other questions. Okay. So anyway, long story short, the Raven API is going to be packaged and available for your use. And we have a number of customers interested in that. For example, to take terms that are stored in the IBM glossary called InfoSphere and leverage that to populate the Raven Business Glossary and have one system of record as it relates to glossary service. That kind of thing is the type of use case that we're looking to support with the API. In addition, we're having discussions with some of our strategic partners, the ones that we had before the acquisition, right? IBM Rational, HP, some of the big business process players who are interested in licensing the API to build integrations with their products. So that part of the strategy hasn't really changed. It's just that the tool we're going to provide to enable that type of integration is the API, and the question is, who does the work to enable that integration is something we can discuss, right? So, all right, so that's slide 2. And then slide 3 really just gives you a high-level view of the architecture that we're featuring as part of the new Raven for Office product line. And you can see there at the bottom middle, Raven Office and Visio would be the primary client-side environment one would use to leverage Raven. It has connections to the cloud, as we talked about, the cloud interface, as well as to applications enabled through the API. But then what you see at the top, in the cloud, so to speak, as a pure web-based architecture, the glossary, language engine itself, the repository, these are all services that are called from the Office environment. So it's no different than what you would see if you were running Salesforce.com or you're running Google Docs or Gmail or any other on-demand type service. The idea is that these services can be updated dynamically and you have an ability to leverage them anytime you're connected to the internet from your standard Office environment. So so this is just gives you a sense of how these really 6 or 7 product components come together, right? And used in different ways. And we'll talk about how they'll be made available in terms of packaging alternatives here in just a bit. Okay. And in terms of the functional scope, obviously Marcia is going to spend time walking through the demonstration specifically, but just to make it clear to you, these add-ins by design are intended to help you leverage the applications you use most, right? And it really just recognizes that the clear facts that 90% plus of all business analysts worldwide rely on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. to do their job as business analysts or contribute in some form or shape relative to the application or systems engineering lifecycle, right? This is clear, and what we're trying to do is, I think had some success doing, is blend Raven seamlessly within that Office environment. So there's a Raven ribbon that it behaves just like you would expect it to as an Office add-in, and so it becomes a very familiar type of interaction that you experience with Raven, as opposed to a separate application that perhaps isn't as well integrated with the Office tools that you use every day. We'll talk a little bit about the good and bad of that, but ultimately we think it's overwhelmingly the capabilities we'll deliver to you in Office give you the equal or better capabilities than you get today in Raven Professional, or more flexible ways of leveraging those capabilities consistent with the Office interface paradigm. And this Office experience that we've talked about does leverage the glossary so that you can, at any point in time, create a glossary, associate it to the use cases or processes that you're defining within an Office document, and use that glossary to validate the terminology you're using and make sure that any use case models being created reflect that consistent terminology. right? And the benefit being, of course, consistency means greater understanding, which means fewer flawed requirements downstream, right? It enables diagram generation that you've seen, and the new generation diagram formats that you've seen in Raven for Office are now carried into the Office products. And in addition to JPEG images of diagrams, you now have the ability to generate the diagram in an Office graphics vector format, which gives you the ability to edit them once they've been generated by Raven. And of course, what we introduced in Raven Cloud was the ability to generate a Visio diagram from the cloud, and that same capability exists within the Office environment. So even if you don't have Visio installed on your desktop, you can still generate a Visio diagram for a colleague who does, right? And that really helps them, or you create artifacts that can be leveraged outside by other contributors or participants in the project. And as I talked about briefly, there's a bridge from the Office products to your cloud account, which comes at your option. So when you sign up for Office or install the Office products, if you don't already have a Raven Cloud account, it'll give you the opportunity to create one, and at that point forward, you can use that to store and share process and use case models created from Office, right? So the current target availability of the Office product is Q2. Being more specific than that, we're going to talk about a beta program here really quickly, but the intention is in the mid-May to late May timeframe, this would be available for you after we run a short 30-day beta program that's going to start in the middle of the month, middle of April. So that's that. And without further ado, I want to leave Marcia a good 25 minutes or so to do a demo. So Marcia, let me just kind of pass control over to you. And again, feel free to ask any questions. And Marcia, you should now be the presenter.
Okay, great. So I just want to say, I've been playing with Office here for a few weeks now. It's pretty exciting to see what you can do with it, and I think you're going to really love it when you get a look at it. So I timed this perfectly, so I'm going to give you like kind of a high-level glimpse of what it can do, not drill into a lot of details, but if you guys want to see more details, you can contact me and I'll be happy to set up a longer, more detailed demo for you as well. And if you have any questions, this is great because I'm going to leave and Dave's going to have to answer all your questions. So I think this is going to work out perfect. So.
Meaning leave all the tough questions for me, is that what you're saying?
Exactly. So what you're going to notice that I'm going to do right now is just simply open up a Word document. Some of you that have seen the demos that I do have seen loan application over and over again, so I'm going to keep using that one. So basically, I've just opened up a Word document. I'll just scroll through here so you can see a little bit what it looks like, but here's a business request. I've got a placeholder for glossary, a placeholder for requirements. Kind of just created an outline for some of the information I want to include in this particular document. So it looks like I'm working in Word, of course, but the cool thing is I'm actually working within Raven. So once I click the Raven tab up here, I see all these other options show up. So one of the things I, of course, want to do is take a look at adding some narratives inside of here. And one of the ways I can do this is simply to open up the process pane, which now I have a pane here on the left of my document where I can enter my narrative text. I can also enter it right over here if I like. I have found that I prefer starting over here just because it kind of keeps the narrative clean until I'm ready to put it into my document. You'll notice up here there's some glossary functions. I can select a glossary, and I have a couple already defined. I'll just open up my loan application glossary so you can see what that looks like. Oh, sorry. I'm still learning. There it goes. And what this is going to do is open up, similar to the glossary view that you all have already seen, I hope. Why is that not opening, Dave? Here it is. So you'll see here I have my term names, my term type, and there's some new term types that I can put in here. I can define whether it's information, a group, a person. I can provide a description. There's a status that I can provide of draft or approved. So as I'm working through my glossary, I can begin to add those in, acronyms and so on. I've got all my typical glossary functions up here, but I also you'll notice there's an import and export. So I have a direct import and export from my glossary to and from Excel. So if I already have an Excel glossary, I can import it, or if I want to export these terms out, I can do that. So there's different functions and lists inside of here that I can use. We've got some cool little icons if I'd like to add some icons to my different items as well. But basically, this is what how I'm going to start to define my terms, just like I do in Raven Professional. I'm going to attach a glossary. I'm going to set up these terms, and I'm going to start managing my glossary here. Over here on the left, as I begin typing my narrative in, you'll see that just as in Raven Professional, I get my list of glossary terms that I can pick from, and I can enter my narrative over here on the left. So I'm going to enter just a quick little narrative. And I can type my entire use case in just like we're used to doing. We'll say send a request message to the loan application system. And what I can do once I get this typed in, there's a couple things that I can do. And some of the things that have been added I think are going to help from the usability piece of the Raven language. One is I can do an analyze of this narrative. Now, typically you have to model it and then you look at all your errors. But what this does is go in and analyze your narrative text without actually creating the model. Once it's finished, I can bring up a panel that will show me my errors and warnings that I might have inside of here. I don't have any in this case because I'm so good at writing these narratives now, right? But if I had some, what I noticed in here, the wording is much more user-friendly. So I get warnings, which are going to tell me things like, you've got a label you didn't use, those kinds of things. The errors that you're used to seeing, the wording on these errors is just much nicer and much easier to understand. But I get the same kinds of analysis before I actually generate the model. So I can begin to, debug or correct my narrative based on these errors and warnings that I'm getting without even looking at the model. And once I feel I've got it complete, then I can do a preview of the diagram, look at the diagram, and go from there. What I want to do, though, because I want to save some time here, is I'm actually going to open a process. I have created some processes and saved them locally. I did this through editing another document, and now I can just pick those processes from my list, open it up, and you'll see my text is inside of here. You might notice this dashed underline. That tells me that that term is in my business glossary. I can do my analyze narrative here again. I can look at it, look at my errors and warnings. And once I'm finished with that, I can preview the diagram. And what you'll see when this comes up is that this is the new diagram, not the old version that you are used to seeing in Raven Professional. You're going to see the much nicer diagram that is similar to Raven Cloud. What am I doing wrong, Dave?
I don't know, but it looks like a nice clean diagram.
I don't know what's going on here. I did this. Well, let's do this. I'm going to do this real quick. So I'm going to go down here to the narrative piece. Let's see what happens when I do this. I think maybe it's not coming up because it's shared, but we'll insert our narrative text inside of here. So there's my text. And then let's try inserting this process diagram in here as well. Here we go. So here's the diagram, and I'm not sure why it didn't show up here in preview, I guess because I haven't done anything with it. But so I can very easily put my narrative text in here. I can insert my diagram into here, and I've got this nice view right here. Of course, from the preview, I can flip it or do other things that I want to do with it like you can in Raven Cloud. And if you want to see your diagrams always in a certain format, I have that option here of setting it to either horizontal or vertical. Here's where I can see what business glossary I'm using, and here's where I'm going to store my information when I'm storing processes. So I can set my preferences here. I can set my Raven Cloud account here. At some point, we'll have a repository where I can save this information as well. So this sets up my preferences so that as I save processes and open processes, I can save them to Raven Cloud, I can open them from Raven Cloud, as Dave mentioned, and really go back and forth between the two. I also want to pull in one other process here because I want to show you some other really cool things you can do. So here's another narrative that I've pulled in from somewhere else. So I can insert the text.
When you do it that way, it's actually analyzing it before, you can either analyze it in place, right, before you actually insert any content in the document, or any action like in preview or insert does do an analysis before it does the subsequent content insertion.
So here's a preview that came up. So one of the things I just wanted to show you that I thought was pretty cool is once I preview it, I can rotate it here if I like and then insert it if I would want to do that. So, I have some options at that time. But now I've got my diagram inside of here. Let's just say, for the sake of this, that I also want to include, I'm just doing this one because I know everybody gets real interested in this, and I always am too. So one of the things that you can do over here, there's a lot of options for different kinds of information that you can see. So we looked at the errors and warnings, but let's look at the analysis results, because here's some other things I can get. Here's my terms, here's my functions, here's my steps within that particular activity, and you'll notice these are now getting IDs assigned to them. So this is going to help if you're, creating integration to requirements management type tools. This is what I love. Here's my different scenario flow paths, and I can expand these out to show all the steps inside of each one of these paths. For some of you that, have used the collaboration space, this is like that test path export. But now it's embedded right in here inside of my document. I don't have to go somewhere else to get that information. So let's take a look at adding that in, and the way I can do that, where did I put that? Underneath here somewhere. My numbers are all out of whack now, but that's okay. So I'm going to insert a table, and I have a lot of options for what I want to insert. I guess it would help if I got back to Raven. I'm going to insert this scenario table right here. So right inside my document, what I'm going to get now is tables for each one of my test paths through that particular scenario. I can insert functional requirements. I can insert sentences, terms, all the terms, which would be like my glossary. And I can put these where I want inside of my document. So I'm no longer constrained. Two things biggest complaints we get about Raven is the diagrams. We want them to be prettier. We want them to be nicer like this, right? And the second complaint is when I generate that spec document, it's huge, and I have no control over it. So what you're able to do now really is create your template, fill in your narrative, your glossary, everything that you need wherever you want it to be, and you get these nice documents that you can now save and do what you need to do with. So the save process basically allows me to pick where I want to save it. I would just pick where I wanted to save that particular diagram, and then it would be accessible from other documents as I open them. The other thing, I wanted to just show over here is the ability to navigate through my use cases. So as I build my document, I can navigate over here to step through and see where all those different documents are, or where those different narratives are within my document.
Yeah, the idea there, just to clarify that, Marcia, is that it gives you the ability to create this collection of use cases, let's say, right? For this project, which is being summarized in this document called Loan Application Project, you define, whatever the scope of the project is or whatever the focus of what you're defining in this project is. You can define that as a collection of narratives through this process pane mechanism, and then save those just with the document. And then, as Marcia said, right, it gives you great control over where the artifacts produced by Raven will be placed in the document, as opposed to saying, well, when I finish that in Raven Professional, I'm going to push this button and they're all just going to get thrown into the document in sequential order by bookmark placement, right? And one of the big criticisms was, I like the auto generation capability, but I don't like the lack of control, and I don't like the size, right? So this gives you, in our view, a great deal of flexibility in saying, it's my template. I want to put the narratives here. I want to put the diagrams here. I want to put this list of tables here. And we'll be working on things like, I want to insert a glossary table for this project as well. That's an extended function we're working on before GA. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. This ability to create multiple use cases is a real powerful.
And then what I really like is the grouping. I can put these into wherever I want them to be within my repository. So I can create categories. Maybe I have a category of business processes where I put certain things, and just the ability to store them where it makes the most sense for me to get to them, to retrieve them or include them or whatever I want to do. And the other cool thing I think is, most of our customers, really the end result of what they're trying to do with Raven is get this document out. We all like to believe we're kind of out of that document world, but in reality, what most people are using from Raven is the spec document. And what this gives you is control over that document, the ability to put things where you want them to be, and make your document much more succinct and readable for your readers. And, but I can also save these processes out where I can reuse them again as well. So it's really building a repository of narratives that I can include in lots of other documents or projects or whatever you want to call them. So I think the other thing that I just want to mention is the ability to export this. I can export these narratives to an image, to an XPDL or XMI, or to a Visio file, as Dave mentioned. So, if I do want to send these images out as PDF files to include other places, I can do that. Of course, the XMI XPDL is going to be, I think, the thing of the future for some other tools that you might want to export to as well. So I think that's a high-level view, kind of what Office can show you. I'm sure there's a lot of details you'd like to see, but we don't really have time to delve in too much. But if anybody has any questions, I'd say let's go ahead and ask them, or if there's something else that you'd like to see.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a few questions. I think, Marcia, you have about 10 more minutes, and so if anybody has questions for Marcia that are more focused on current usage patterns for Raven Professional, she can certainly address any of those. Of course, I can as well, but I think it'd be helpful, since she's worked with many of you personally, it'd be helpful if you ask some of those questions to her.
The other thing I forgot to mention, Dave, was for some of you as well, the language is very, very similar to what you're already used to. There haven't been a lot of huge changes to the language engine. There are some changes. Designated term, you might notice, has gone away. It's replaced by simply putting quotes around the term, and comments are in parentheses. And I didn't actually do that, but just so you know, those are other constructs available over here in the language as well.
Sure. And again, what we'll be working on in the next, well, basically in the month of April, is putting some online help together, right? So that all these features that Marcia browsed through will be documented in that form. And again, for any of you on the call today, or others in your company that want to have perhaps a one-on-one demonstration of this, a deep dive, if you will, that can be done in the context of the current use of Raven Professional, we're happy to do that in the coming days. We can also, I want to also introduce you to the beta program here in just a second. So does anybody want to raise their hand and have questions for Marcia, or is everybody okay? Okay, so Marcia, let me just take back control and go back to the presentation, and let me just go off and finish up the presentation.
Sure.
Davin Cushman introduced this fairly simplified product packaging strategy during the presentation he delivered. And it really is intended to allow you to take in the new capabilities in whatever form or shape you want, but with a focus on, look, I want to go all cloud, or I want to embrace the Office strategy with a bridge to the cloud, or I want everything, right? And obviously it's really more of an all-you-can-eat type of approach, where our goal is to not only empower you and enable your current users to leverage the new capabilities, but also to expand potential users because maybe they're users of Office, maybe they're not heads down, fully dedicated participants, but they're occasional contributors to a project or occasional reviewers to a project. And the Office bundle strategy is really about making Raven available to them in a lighter, hopefully more friendly way that allows them to leverage the tooling that they're already familiar with, which is Microsoft Office. So this bundle, these bundling options are going to be available to you. One of the things that we wanted to announce today is that we are going to run a 30-day beta program, and if we say 30 days, it's likely to be, somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. But bottom line is we're pretty much ready to deliver this in a beta form to you all, anybody who's interested in your company, meaning any current Raven user in your company that wants to give this a try. You just need to make a request to do that. It'll be obviously free for you to use starting hopefully by the end of next week. And what we'd like to do is Marcia and I would be helping manage the beta program directly in the coming weeks. And to the extent you accept to bring it in and give us some feedback, obviously report any defects like that diagram preview bug that Marcia just found, and so forth. Tell us about those. And then, given that you guys have context, right, how Raven has been used successfully in your company already, and the question becomes, well, what other capabilities would you like to see in the current Raven for Office products that you don't see and become more of a must-have for you? So we're obviously anxious to get that feedback as well. but our sense of it in general is based on the actual usage patterns of customers that we have. We believe that when it's fully realized, in the next 30 to 60 days, the Raven for Office capabilities with the surrounding services or glossary and repository, etc., will give you just about all the key capabilities you expected to see in the next generation Raven Professional. Right? It may not have all of them, and as Davin said in the call last time, we haven't ruled out a next generation Raven Professional, but we have ruled in a time period to step back, make sure we clearly understand the scope of capabilities you need, and if there's any deltas, then we can address those with you, individually or as groups. So that's the plan. So if you want to participate in the beta program, which we certainly encourage that you do, send an email to success@ravenflow.com. Marsha and I will be receiving that, and then there'll be a communication to the beta participants in the coming week to 10 days that kind of basically says download it here, right? What are the installation requirements? Download it here, and then what we'll try to do is set up individual sessions for you to get indoctrinated and then turn you loose in providing us feedback. The other thing that will be remiss if I didn't say is that we have these 3 offers that were presented as welcome to the family offers, meaning welcome to the Versata family. And so currently these are the 3 different options you have for upgrading to the new stuff. It's based on, for existing customers, a percentage of either the term license or current maintenance billing, but there'll be communications with you in the future about this to really make it clear to you what the price is and the value received is, and whether or not you want to step up to this. So there'll be an account team that will reach out to you proactively to review that. And of course, Marsha and I will be here to answer any questions you have in that regard. And again, this is questions that are easily answered in the time frame of the beta period in April and early May. And these offers will be available through the Q2 time frame ending June 30th, right? So, and so let me go ahead and take one last shot at unmuting everybody and take any feedback that any of you have. Right? Is this something that you want to talk more about? Are you comfortable with? Are you concerned about? I'm willing to accept all points of feedback at this point. Well, I hear somebody typing, but nobody talking. So, so anyway, I don't want to call anybody out in particular. So I'll just say that we're gonna close off the webinar. Right. Feel free to reach out to either Marsha or I via email. We're happy to set up a dedicated session, as I said earlier, with the team, whether it's the Jeppesen team or the Blue Cross team or whatever team it is. Right, we're more than happy to do that, and that way, there's any specific questions or concerns you have, you can perhaps talk about more openly. So, if there are no further questions, I'll go ahead and close down the webinar. Thank you very much for attending. Marsha, head off to the BA World and Theater and knock them dead, and we'll talk to you all later. Okay, guys, thanks very much.
Thank you.